with Amanda Poon, the BC Green Party candidate for Kelowna Mission in the quickly approaching October 24th provincial election. Amanda, this is your first run at politics. You're doing it during a pandemic. Why now?
Well, this election was a surprise to myself as well. A month ago, I didn't know I would be running an election. I thought I would just be unpacking my new house. But I was approached by a group of women in business and leadership, including current, former city councillors, politicians, business owners, and they really encouraged me to run because of the nature that this election was called. So number one, John Horgan, seeing an advantage, seeing that his popularity is skyrocketing, and understanding that for a new candidate like myself, it's very difficult to enter this race with such short notice, especially for a party like the BC Greens. And then, of course, the fact that the BC Liberal incumbent is retiring, opening up a vacancy, and also just seeing that as an opportunity to participate in democracy. Because if no one actually ran intending to win, then we wouldn't be really having an election. We would just be having a passing of the torch, kind of appointing an heir apparent instead of having what I believe is really important, which is a democratic election.
What is important to you?
It's important to me that everybody in the city has the opportunity to be represented and exercise their democratic right to vote, as well as their right to run. So for me, this election was also an opportunity because this is the first election, not counting that last by-election with the Christy Clark switcheroo, but the first election really where corporate money and big labor money has been capped. They're not allowed to donate to campaigns. There's a limit for the first time. And so that to me is a small window, even though I am an underdog and a long shot. And if you look at the statistics, there's no chance. You know, if you're a poker player like myself, you might not go all in on my candidacy. But the fact that we're capping donations means that candidates like me who don't have that big engine of corporations and unions behind them can have a bit of a chance to enter the race and at least be sitting here in the seat with you.
What attracted you to the Green Party?
I'm attracted to the Green Party because it connects with my core values. The Green Party believes in participatory democracy, meaning everybody can participate. There's no barriers to anyone entering, regardless of your economic status or your background. They also believe in accountability. So I think in the past, the Green Party hasn't been really given any space to talk about what they represent. As a newer party, they've been developing and growing. But the Green Party really believes in evidence-based policy and also living within our means. So environmentalism is very much at the core of the Green Party, addressing climate change and these other environmental issues that we see here in the Okanagan, like flood and fire. In the Okanagan Mountain Fire, I was just graduating high school and my family home up in Joe Rich was sprayed with the fire retardant, and we spent the night in a school gym. So I grew up with those fears of flood and fire. Now I'm the Downtown Knox Mountain Neighborhood Association president. I have been for a little while, and flood is a huge thing that we worry about there. So my connection to the environment grew growing up here as a little girl. I lived on actually a Bible camp in West Kelowna, very rural as a kid, and then we moved all the way up to Joe Rich. So we always lived within our means, and we always lived very closely connected to the land, which is something I continued in my own life in my time in the agricultural industry. I was at the farmers market, I supplied restaurants. So my whole path, I think, has led me to run for the BC Green Party because I know how important those issues are at the local level.
This election really boils down to who the electors of British Columbia want to see lead them out of this pandemic. Why the Green Party? Why should they be the ones to lead us?
Well, I don't know if everyone saw the BC leadership debate. I thought Sonia Furstenau really shone in that debate. She was very cool-headed, and I think for a long time there's been a lot of unsavory things happening in politics. In the age of Mr. Trump down there south, and in the age of social media, which we've all been spending a little too much time on in the pandemic, I think, and I've been guilty of that as well, certainly. But I think that has caused a climate of negativity and also these ad hominem attacks on personalities. And we've lost sight of the policies. So the Green Party, being such a party that focuses on the policies and the ideas more so than the politics and the personalities, I think is the party that we need right now. Because right now we don't need to have our elected leaders, who, mind you, this is not a volunteer position. This position pays much more than I've ever received in any job in my life. This is a service. This is a civic duty. And so I don't think we need to be paying people to have Twitter arguments. I think we need to pay people to roll up their sleeves and do some work, do some research, and put forward some solutions to the problems that we all are suffering from.
As far as the constituents of Kelowna Mission, the big issues you see facing them?
Yeah, so I've lived all over this riding, and the way that the maps were redrawn in I think the 90s, I was a kid, actually captures a lot of the places that I've lived. People might only think it's the Upper Mission, and I have lived in the Upper Mission on DeHart Road, but it also includes the street that I lived on in my high school years in Joe Rich. It includes an area of Black Mountain I lived in, as well as an area of Rutland and the Spring Valley area. And so the issue that I see for this riding is the disconnection, and that includes the transit as well. So this riding, we have all these disparate communities, and they're very separate from one another, and we're all being asked to vote for the same representative. So I think from the political side, it is interesting that these very different communities that might never interact with one another in our daily life are choosing the same representative. But then the second part of that is that disconnection. So as a kid, first I lived in West Kelowna, but then Joe Rich and Black Mountain. And one of my first jobs as a teenager was working at Mariner's Reef, which used to be Wild and Wet. I just thought it would be so fun, but I lived in Joe Rich at the time, so I would try and catch the bus, but if I missed the bus from where Wild and Wet was, I'd have to walk all the way to the Queensway Depot and try and get all of those buses all the way up to Joe Rich. And I could sometimes get a ride down from the foot of Black Mountain, but if not, I would hitchhike. And I was a teenage girl, and it's just a wonder that I didn't get into more trouble than I did. So I think transit and connecting these communities through more innovative, active transportation. I know that Kelowna, being the car capita of Canada, it's hard to get people out of their vehicles, but we need to think about kids too. It's not always feasible or safe for kids to be walking alongside these roads that some don't even have lighting or sidewalks. I know when I went to high school at Rutland Senior, a number of young kids through walking or skateboarding died because of getting hit by cars, and also young drivers on those roads up to Black Mountain and Rutland. Very dangerous, and sadly many lives were lost. And I think even in the Upper Mission, you have that mission, that mission crawl as parents try and get their kids. Some kids, because of the catchment stuff, can't actually use the school bus. And the closer you live to the school, the less eligible you are to be able to use the school bus. But it's not always safe for kids. So I think that's a big issue, and I think that's where the Green Party of BC is the best to manage it and come up with some solutions that'll work.
Amanda, I want to give you a chance to look in the camera, look at the constituents of Kelowna Mission, give them your best pitch.
I think it's time to vote for someone who has lived the issues that we're talking about. We've had representation making decisions on things that affect your daily life: healthcare, childcare, transportation, and the economy. We often hear we need to get people back to work, but I know from talking within my circle and talking with people I've met through my time in working in healthcare, as I do now, but as well as agriculture and construction and trades, you never stopped working, you just aren't getting paid what you deserve. And so I think it's time you actually elected someone with a kid in the public school system, someone trying to navigate school buses, someone who has never owned a vehicle, as myself, couldn't afford to, and someone who actually knows what it's like to be working in a time when there's so much economic uncertainty, environmental uncertainty, and a lot of questions that haven't been answered by the last 3 years of leadership and were never addressed by the previous 16. So vote for Amanda Poon, Kelowna Mission, and I will find those answers for you.
Amanda Poon, BC Green Party candidate in Kelowna Mission for October 24th. Good luck, Amanda.
Thank you.